Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Three Things with Ian. It is May 2nd. It is also episode 122 of Three Things with Ian. Welcome. Let's get started. On today's episode, we got a lot of fun topics. We're going to talk cereal, legendary coaches, Pokemon trading cards. The list goes on and on and on. And Free Comic Book Day. So let's dive in. Let's talk trading cards, but not sports cards. Let's talk Pokemon cards. So, Pokemon cards have had an explosive and quite alarming, not in a bad way, huge growth, value, popularity. The result has been a massive shift in the paradigm. I've been to a few trading card shows, and according to the experts and the stats that follow, they are side by side now with sports cards. The question is really now, can Pikachu and Charizard coexist at dealer tables next to Mickey Mantle and Shohei Ohtani? And I think the answer is yes. 30% of the market, of the total trading card market now, has been Pokemon. And 5-10 years ago, they were not anywhere close to 30%. Demand is through the roof. You can't find them at stores. Unfortunately, the dark side of this is that you have scalpers who are sleeping outside of card shops, and they're waiting to just buy out the inventory and then flipping them to vendors for a profit. And then there's markup on that, and then the eBay and the tertiary and whatever the quad market would be. We have 6 packs of cards, 300% inflation premium. That's unfortunate. I didn't realize this, but a recent collaboration between Pikachu and the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam had so much mayhem that they had to close the museum. There was a Pikachu card, and he was wearing the classic gray felt hat that Van Gogh has used in paintings, and the museum had to be closed for safety concerns. So card dealers now are they are thinking more about Pokemon as a legitimate entry point when they have their dealer tables and they have their trading cards set up. Although there are still more sports cards, Pokemon is getting up there. It does seem to be so during the pandemic, trading cards, sports cards were seen as sort of an investment and sort of more of a business-oriented slant. And right now, Pokemon, just because of the massive rise and the growth of value so quickly, exponential, we're kind of moving away from the hobby and collecting orientation into the more like business-driven investment stuff. And so that's not super fun. And some of the things that I found interesting about researching this topic is that one of the things that Pokemon dealers sort of struggle with is that there's less inventory, right? With sports cards, there are so many versions and refractors and prisms and parallels and pink ice and blue ice and orange ice, which these are all actual real words, guys. Numbered cards, more serialized limited edition stuff. Pokemon, most collectors are going to have the same basic stuff, right? There's just not that diversity in terms of how many SKUs are available. And so that also, unfortunately, for the cards that are super valuable, that has jacked up the price because there's just been a real avalanche of individuals who want to get the big cards quickly and are willing to pay a premium for it. The scalper stuff, that's unfortunate. But the explosive growth of Pokemon cards has been a boon for show promoters. I do follow some of the local Michigan sports card shows, and I am seeing on the second or third byline now, Pokemon, where before it was just going to be sports cards, new, vintage, whatever the nomenclature is for the sports cards. Now I'm seeing a lot more of the Pokemon stuff. When cards are tripling in value in 5 months, people are going to be drawn to it, and many for good reasons because they're interested, and some unfortunately for bad reasons where they just want to make a profit. One consideration though I think is interesting is Pokemon characters don't have bad years. Pikachu's not tearing his ACL. There's no off-field scandals. There's no steroids, and so on the flip side, they don't have those meteoric rises where you have a Victor Wembanyama who comes in as a heralded prospect and then puts his money where his mouth is and plays the game at a high level. So his cards have increased value. But Pikachu is kind of doing Pikachu stuff. There's no bad years, but there's no good years. So That does increase the ability of them to be flippability, the ability to quickly resell, because the cards right now just seem to be growing and growing and growing in value, and they're not going to have that regression to the mean where you have with actual humans and athletes, where they can fall to essentially zero when news befalls active athletes, whether they retire. There was a 24-year-old prospect who actually was drafted in the NFL draft, and he actually retired because of medical concerns, and so his cards are essentially worthless. Sorry to say, no slight to him as a person or anything, but in terms of the value as a non-player, they're not going to be there. So the shared space of card shows will increase. We'll see more Pokemon. We'll see more sports cards. This is a hot hobby. I weirdly got into sports cards after the whole COVID boom. You can blame my son for that, but anyway, interesting story about Pokemon and the fact that their resurgence is definitely worth noting. Okay, so topic 2. Let's talk about legendary coaches. We have 2 coaches who are on their way out in terms of retirement and sort of segueing into their second and third careers. We got one basketball coach and one soccer coach. We're going to start with the soccer coach. Pep Guardiola is a Spaniard. He's a bald Spaniard. I think he's probably in his maybe mid-50s, early 60s. I'm not sure his age per se. He manages the Manchester City squad, excuse me, for that slip of the tongue there. And his time at Man City is probably drawing to a close. Not sure what the next chapter will be, but I want to spend a few minutes just talking about, his legacy, and just talking about what made him such a special coach and person. His legacy is defined by a couple things: innovative, possession-based, attacking style soccer, and his remarkable success in multiple leagues over multiple decades. He's won multiple Champions League titles and the Continental treble twice. Winning the treble is an immensely difficult feat. It means winning in your league the top 3 trophies. It's very hard to win one of these trophies. It's very hard to win 2. Winning the treble twice it's unheard of. He's the only person to do that. He's widely recognized for revolutionizing tactical approaches to soccer, impacting how teams play, and generally raising the bar of international sports soccer. He brought a Spanish flair. It's called tiki-taka, and it is a quick, high possession, fluid type of soccer that was kind of a response to the Dutch total football. And it led to for about 10 to 12 years, the Spanish international clubs at the highest levels were essentially unbeatable when tiki-taka was being used to the maximum effect. He's coached in La Liga, the Bundesliga, the Premier League. He made it onto Ted Lasso. He's the only real coach to actually get any screen time on Ted Lasso. Of course, Ted Lasso is the penultimate coach in my book and for many others. At Man City, he brought a team that had some success to the top of the level. If you look at the last 20 years in the Premier League, Manchester City has won many titles. I think it's like 8 or 9 or something. And they were competitive essentially until this year, where we had a bit of a fall off. Nurturing young talent, creating a positive, inclusive environment. These are all positive things. And when I think of soccer coaches, I think that I would like to, meet and learn from. Pep Guardiola is he's definitely up there. And like I said, we don't have an announcement per se for retirement, and he hasn't been let go or anything like that, but we're definitely in the twilight, probably the last chapter of his fabled coaching career. On the other side today, breaking news: Greg Popovich, 76 years old, elder statesman of the game. He has won the most NBA games of any human being on the planet, 1,422. He was thrice the league's coach of the year. He had a mild stroke November 2nd, and he actually, though, isn't really retiring. He's just going to be the president of basketball operations. So if anything, he's probably taking on more responsibility. But he has transformed the San Antonio Spurs into one of the league's cornerstone franchises in a market, in a state that was not particularly known for high-level basketball. He has spent the last 29 years coaching the Spurs. So that's some incredible longevity. He won 5 championships. He's one of only 3 coaches to win 5 championships. His team won 50 plus games in 18 consecutive years and amassed 170 playoff wins. But off the resume, he always struck me as a very genuine, good human being. Talked about inclusivity, and he and probably Doc Rivers and Steve Kerr are sort of the triad of the more progressive coaches in terms of their political stance and just talking about being reasonably good human beings to one another. And I think that's something that you don't sometimes get with coaches. Back to the Spurs, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. He himself, obviously, Popovich he's inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 2023. He will be missed. He is a coach that was really loved and revered by not only the players but other coaches around him. And I think that never get to meet your heroes is always the saying that I always strive to. I don't know all the inner machinations of him as a person, but I was always struck by how well spoken and how kind and how just generally good was the aura that I get from him. His coaching tree is extensive. I already mentioned it. Steve Kerr, Doc Rivers, all worked for him, and then were able to learn and blossom into their own excellent coaches as a result as well. So I wish Popovich the best. I hope that his health remains good, and it's sad to see him go. So I just wanted to kind of talk. Pep Guardiola popped up into my feed, and I said, okay, let's talk about important coaches to me. In terms of they kind of left an impact on how I think about coaching myself, because I'm not a professional coach, but I do a lot of coaching youth in different aspects in different arenas. Lastly, this weekend marks one of the greatest holidays, quasi-holidays, just special events on the calendar. It always coincides with the Kentucky Derby and really the first great week, really great first spring weekend, right? Wherever you are, kind of by May 3rd or 4th, you're hopefully experiencing some good weather. So tomorrow, or maybe it's Sunday, I'm not sure. Oh, no, Sunday's the May 4th. Free Comic Book Day is tomorrow, and I implore anyone who has any interest in just getting out there, going to your local card shop, going to your local trading, usually there are stores that sell trading cards and comics. They go hand in hand, but not always. So some libraries do this, just general places where you can be around good human beings and get some free comic books. Lately, the last couple of years, there seems to have just been an explosion where you go into a store and there's a whole table and you can grab 5 or 10 titles. I don't know, maybe where you're living, it's more restricted. I don't know all the details, but I will hopefully have a busy weekend with a lot of things going on. I will hopefully get some free comic books. I unfortunately have a lot of free comic books over the years that I haven't read. This is probably a good indicator to get back into it. I always appreciate just looking through them and just seeing the different art. I think it's so incredible that people can do art at that level. And and the lettering and the coloring, and I think comic books are a phenomenal thing. I could do maybe we'll do a whole thing on comic books. Anyway, Free Comic Book Day. Get out there, get some comics, talk to a person or two, and just be around some artistic beauty. Really, that's what it comes down to. I got a half marathon this weekend I'm running. Hopefully I'm going to do a short where my tree is in full blossom. We're very, very close. Like I said, a couple years ago, it actually was May the 4th, Star Wars Day. It could be Sunday when I have that peak, beautiful, beautiful magenta pink blossoming. I will post a video on that as soon as I possibly can. Maybe I'll mow the lawn. I don't know. A lot going on. I'm going to go do a 2-mile little last bit run, just mostly for mental kicks, I guess. At this point, my body's my body. I will get what I get out of the half marathon, but I'll do a small little thing to check the box. Anyway, it has been great to talk to you again. Next week, I got a bunch of topics already on the docket. Can't wait. So just to recap, Free Comic Book Day, the coaches I respect and love, and we talked about Pokemon. They're coming. You got to catch them all. Good night. Goodbye. Peace.